later. I wanted to start the recording with her yawning, and I didn't get it in time.
Oh, and then I thought I burped, and I was like, oh
No.
Yeah, I was hoping that would get on.
Okay. Welcome back to the Macabre Academy. You're here with your headmistresses. My name is Steffi, aka Nerdy Witch.
Dex.
And Brandy.
I know a guy slow on the draw.
Well, I
she
thought
was gonna go.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna go, and I'm like, oh wait, do we have like a specific order now we do this in?
I wasn't sure. We gotta practice this for next time.
We gotta work on it.
I'll just keep being trash. It's fine.
You're not trash. Okay, well, you're the best kind of trash. Wasn't there like a t-shirt for that or something?
Yeah, I'm the trash that like your mom picks up and is like, should you recycle this? But it's still trash.
She's a trash panda.
My life is a dumpster fire. It's fine.
I want that cute little toy I sent you, the dumpster fire.
I need
so
it.
Cute.
Do you guys like peach things?
Love peach. Yes.
So I discovered these Jack Daniel's Southern Peach.
Yeah. They're amazing.
They're very good. They're at Sam's or
Sheets.
I want that. I don't have
They're
that.
good.
I got
them at the Sheets at the bottom of Nebo.
There's also
well, Soundman is gonna have to cut that out because then you're gonna place where we are and there's gonna be crazy stalkers following us.
They also have peach wine.
Yeah, you brought that peach wine. That was good.
That was really good. That was really good.
Wine. Sheets, bitches.
All right, 3 minutes in, we're already derailed. So let me redirect, if I may. So I have been waiting to watch the Waco documentary on Netflix, and at Brandy's advice, I have yet to watch this because I wanted to not ruin the podcast for this. So let's have your thoughts because you had some very strong opinions about this.
I hated it. 100% I hated it.
Why?
Because it didn't tell you anything.
Well, the reviews on Rotten Tomato I did look at, and a lot of people said that it was slow to start, but it was very sympathetic to both sides in this final sort of standoff situation.
It was, but I think, in my opinion, and people are going to come at me for this, and I'm sorry, but I have an opinion.
Well, that's why we have a podcast. You're supposed to have your opinion.
A lot of the people in the final standoff that were left in the compound, we'll call it, were children and women. A lot of them. And no, sorry.
See, I don't know anything about this to begin with, so you're going to at least tell us how they wound up in this standoff to begin with.
100%.
Because it's isolated to the standoff on Netflix?
Yeah, that's very isolated towards that, and you don't know the background. You don't know who they are, why they're there, what's going on. So
there's just crazy people in the desert shooting shit.
Yeah, they're just crazy people in the middle of Texas. Who cares about them? No.
That's Texas.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Mike listens to our podcast, and he's from Texas.
I know.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry, not sorry.
He's very educated on guns. Very educated.
Gee, I wonder why. He's from Texas.
Sorry.
So, and this is related, this is not a derail. There are these videos they have on YouTube where it's different experts who examine takes on real life things in different media forms. Okay. So you might have a real life doctor critiquing House and Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah, I love those. They're hilarious.
So there was one where I think they ended up doing the Waco Netflix thing you were just talking about, where a guy who was in a cult examines them.
Oh.
We're gonna have to get that
Also-
link up on the social medias. You gotta
Right,
send
because
me
I have
that.
to watch
Also,
that.
I'm not going to reveal any names for privacy, but I used to work with a girl who grew up in like a legitimate cult, like was on the news cult.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Like she actually had to be the one to be like, "Mom, can we please leave? Like we need to leave.
Oh
We
wow.
need to like go. We need to stop this."
I could not imagine that.
Some of my favorite cult documentaries are on Scientology, because there
Oh,
was
yeah.
some very famous actress that spoke out
Clearwater.
against it. Yes, it's
Mhm.
very interesting. But I don't want to talk about that because this is Waco,
Yeah,
Right,
and
so it's
that
a
could
totally
be like
different cult.
different
its
kind of setup.
own. That could be its own episode or couple.
Oh,
Oh, don't worry. I love some cults, so like
I'm
I'll do
doing
it.
cult. I'm doing a cult. You better believe I'm doing Blackburn cult. That is coming up.
I think I
at
love
some
me some
point.
cults.
Oh,
I
yeah.
seriously keep thinking she says Blackbird.
It's okay.
Well, Brandy, it's a Brandy-tastic episode, so you just take on over.
Are
do
you
your
ready?
thing. Yes,
Okay.
you do you. I'm ready.
So
do
we're gonna
this.
start by defining what a cult is, because not a lot of people know like the actual definition. They just
Well,
use it as like a bunch of crazy people.
You also struggled with this definition when we were talking about the death goddess cults, so you
Right.
looked this up.
Right.
Okay.
So the definition is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. It's a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister.
Did I ever tell you that I thought Harry Potter was a cult?
I believe it.
No.
No, you don't know the story. We based our podcast off of Harry Potter. This is outsider looking in, right? Because I was not on the Harry Potter train. But this might set up a little bit about why cults look weird to people on the outside.
I definitely did not go to the book releases at Borders.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So
weirdo.
I was in Catholic school up until 7th grade. And then I started
8th grade.
Yeah. So I started in public school, and on my first day of public school, I was in the lunch line, and this little mousy girl comes up to me, and she goes, "Are you a muggle?" And I was like, "What the fuck is a muggle?" And I'm wearing all black. Okay. I'm like, "What the fuck's a muggle?" And she goes, "A non-magical being." And I'm like, "Then yes, I'm a fucking muggle. What the hell are you doing? Like, why are you talking to me?" And she goes, "Oh, I take it you never read Harry Potter." And I'm like, "What the fuck is Harry Potter?" And she's like, "Oh no, it's this great world of wizards, and we're all wizards." And I'm like, "This is a fucking cult, and I want nothing to do with it." Nothing to do with it, because this strange girl is asking me if I'm a fucking wizard. No. Now I'm all like, House, Ravenclaw. I love it because I went to go see all the movies and things over time, and then I actually read all the book series. But at the time, I didn't know shit about Harry Potter. And are you a muggle? No. I mean, yes. What the fuck? What is the muggle? So it was strange. I stayed away from it for a very long time because I thought it was a cult.
I love that.
I love it so much. So, back to my definition. Hold on, let me go back to it. My mouse is being weird. Okay, so it's regarded by others as sinister or strange. The people in the cult don't see it as sinister. They don't see it as a bad thing. They see it as, this is our religion, this is what we believe in. And everyone outside of it is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, are you a devil worshiper? What's going on?
A lot of misconceptions.
Exactly.
Depending on how you read into the definition of a cult, technically any religious group could be a
religious
cult.
group. Every religious group based on this definition is a cult.
Well, there's surface knowledge, right? In any religion, surface knowledge, like everybody knows, like Jesus died on the cross or whatever. Okay. But then there's deeper meanings that you can extrapolate into your life and into your spirituality. And you have to be a part of that group and a part of that culture to absorb those thoughts and things into your everyday lifestyle. So you don't
Exactly.
see these things as wrong, because technically I'm on the train for Hecate. So if somebody looks at me, I look like I'm part of a cult.
Right.
Yeah.
But it means something to me.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. So the group of people we're talking about were called the Branch Davidians. And first, when I heard the Branch Davidians and their leader is named David Koresh, you're like, oh, fuck, this guy named his cult after himself? No, not really. There's a whole story behind that. But he's not that narcissistic at first. So the man who actually founded the Branch Davidians was named Victor Hutef, and he was a Bulgarian immigrant and Seventh-day Adventist. After he was basically like fucked over by the leaders of the Seventh-day Adventists for wanting to reform the church, he took any followers that were close to him and that followed him, and they moved near Waco, Texas in 1935.
Those 7-day Adventists, they have some pretty extreme Orthodox traditions.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So once they settled in Waco, he began to prepare his followers for what he believed would be the return of Jesus. They thought that the old church had given up this in favor of worldly pursuits. So like entertaining themselves with the newspaper or like anything that like wasn't God related was considered a worldly pursuit.
So they cut themselves off in a way.
They cut themselves off. They lived out in the middle of nowhere by themselves.
So this is a self-sufficient community.
Exactly.
So it can be isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they
It's
lived
a little commune.
Exactly. They lived in an extremely simple way and avoided most common ways of entertainment, like I said. So like no TV, no radio, none of that. They became self-sustaining, and the group grew to spread all across the country. Hutef died in 1955, and his wife Florence succeeded him. She continued in his attempts to discern the signs of the end time and said that April 22nd, 1959, was the dawn of the new Masonic age. So, in March of 1959, hundreds of believers gathered at the Waco Center, and when her prediction failed, because hello, the world didn't end,
Big
and
shocker.
Jesus didn't come back, it led to splintering of the movement into several different fractions, which is why we have so many different versions of the Seventh-day Adventists now. So the ones that could be around here aren't the same as the ones that were in Waco. Even though they probably came from the same group, they splintered off and they said, yeah, she's dumb. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So in 1962, she announced that she had failed. Like, what, 3 years after failing? She was like, hey, guys, I failed. I'm sorry. Like, we all
No
knew that.
shit!
We all knew that, you dumb bitch.
Like,
Anyway. So she banded her following and sold the property that was known as Mount Carmel. So the man who took over Mount Carmel was Ben Roden. And he called the Davidians to get off the dead rod and move to the living branch, which to me just means leave that bitch and come to me. And that helped him gain the control of Mount Carmel. And then he established the General Association of Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. And he called his people to a purer life and promised that Christ would return soon, only after all of the members reached a state of moral maturity. No one knows what the fuck that means.
no, but
Like
it is a very good way to keep yourself in a place of power and knowing of these comings, but like leave it open, because if at any point anyone questions him, oh well, clearly some of you are just not morally mature enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all he's got to do,
And like, fuck you, dude. Anyway, but he died in 1978, and the members were torn between allegiance to his wife Lois or his son George. Lois found a friend in a young convert named Vernon Howe. Anyone want to guess who Vernon Howe becomes?
the
Does he
dude,
change his name?
Mm-hmm.
the David dude.
Mm-hmm. Because Vernon's just a bad fucking name, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, when Lois died in 1986, she left George in control, but within a year, Vernon asserted his leadership and became head of the community at Mount Carmel. Vernon moved fast to assert his spiritual authority, and one of his very first acts was to adopt a new name. The name he chose to take was David Koresh. His name suggested that he was a spiritual heir of the biblical king David, and that he, like Koresh, which is Hebrew for Cyrus, the ancient Persian king, was a Masonic figure, but not the Messiah.
It's common to see this where people will say, I am ordained by the gods because I can trace my lineage to the thing. So it's not uncommon to see people coming to power changing their name so that they can assume divine right to do the things that they're going to do. And that helps avoid people questioning. You know, I'd say it's too convenient. Like, oh, here
100%.
you are out of nowhere and you're just magically this descendant. But that's the way my brain thinks.
Oh, no, I agree completely. Like, you're fucked up. Rude. So Cyrus, which is what his last name is the only non-Jew to whom the title, oh, where the fuck did that just go? Okay. The only non-Jew to whom the title Messiah or Anointed One is given in Scripture.
Did you know that when Jesus was coming into his following, this is a time that was very tumultuous for the Jews, and they were actively looking for a Messiah. There were actually several prophets at that time that were on their soapboxes in the square saying, hey, I'm the savior of the Jews. Follow me, and I'm the Messiah. Yeah, Jesus was one of several of that time period. There's documentations from the Romans, actually, about that. I did a little work on that for one of my classes in college. It was very interesting because they were looking for a Masonic figure at that time. So it wouldn't be weird for him to say, you know, for that connection to be made. Not at all. And some of these factions, right, that were like of the Jewish faith will recognize these people as prophets, even though they weren't considered a Masonic figure. So they're still giving some sort of like title, like acknowledgement that their words were coming from God, even if they couldn't recognize them as a Messiah. Okay, so you must be a prophet. I don't completely believe that you're a Messiah, but you're speaking some truth.
Okay.
Prophet. It's interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
It's very interesting.
So he showed his new authority by taking several, quote, spiritual wives. So for him, that meant he was going to marry all of the women in the community when they were too young. Except they were fucking children.
Nasty.
So,
well, there's spots in the Bible that will say you can take as many wives as you can comfortably keep. So if you can only comfortably keep one wife and not be beyond your means, then only take one. But if you're financially and physically able to care for more than one wife, you may have more than one wife. So it's very easy to take those scriptures out of context.
Right. So in 1989, he declared that he is the perfect mate for all of the female members.
Mm.
And that's when he declared that all the other men in the community must be celibate. And he was the only male that was allowed to have sex ever.
Look at that freaking player.
Ever. So, right? Like, fuck
I
you,
wonder
dude.
if he is like the only man to like cock block just an entire town of people.
Right?
Entire town of males.
Like, just an entire, like, community just be like, sorry, you can't have sex with your wife. You can still legally be married, but you can't have sex with her.
Right.
Have a nice life. Sorry, not sorry. So, he also confided in the Davidians that his intention was to create a new lineage of holy children. David believed that these kids would rule the world one day. And his interpretation of the Bible rested largely on identifying himself with the Lamb of God. Which, like, isn't that Jesus?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, like, you're not Jesus, but you are Jesus. Make up your mind here, dude. So.
He's Christ-like.
Yeah, whatever. So, the way he distinguished between, like, himself and Jesus was by suggesting that the Lamb's role was to set loose the 7 seals and interpret the scroll mentioned in Revelation 5:2. The 7 seals would bring forth the end time revelation of Christ. Do we know what the 7 seals are? Anyone?
I should know this.
I was going to say maybe Steph because she's smart. It's okay. I have them all written down.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
So,
I was actually going to say, like, I don't know what they are, and if you don't have them written down, and we have to Google this shit.
Oh, no, I have them all written down, but I thought Steph would know.
Yeah.
You know what?
I'm surprised on that one.
I know I've heard them, but because I'm put on the spot, I can't recall it. So if you don't list them and give me like a day, it's going to like pop in my head when I'm in the shower. I'm going to be like,
I mean, that's fine. I'm going to list them, and then if you know more about them, you can be like, hey, that's that.
Oh, I love you for that. Thank you.
I know. So the seals make an appearance in Revelation 6:1 through 17 and in Revelation 8:1 through 5. It's when John sees the scroll in heaven and that no being except the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, can open.
Mm-hmm.
John watches as God opens the seals one by one to unroll the scroll. So, the first seal is in Revelation 6:2, and this seal introduces the Antichrist onto the scene as a rider of a white horse. The rider wears a crown and will deceive many with talks of peace, but will wage war against the saints. So basically, he's just going to trick everyone and be like, ha ha ha, fuck you, eat dicks and die.
There's a lot of lore about the Antichrist. Even Nostradamus had like predicted an Antichrist.
That's crazy.
It is, yeah. So I might not know the seals explicitly, but I do know like the riders of the apocalypse and these hallmarks that you see, and those are actually things going on in our lives right now. So
I
people
have that
are
down
like,
there, yeah.
All right, you do.
People are like, okay, so this is real.
Yes.
So
yes,
the second seal it shows up in 6:4, and it's basically despite the Antichrist's promise of peace, warfare will break out after the seal is broken. And a red rider on a horse slays a bunch of people. So
that war
World
could be
War
interpreted a lot of different ways, right? Like for Manson, it was a race war, right? Which is very similar to again what's going on now. But for other people, it was like a physical war, like World War II, and Hitler was the Antichrist.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they were using like the world wars and stuff like that.
Well, I mean that does make sense since Christ was the leader of the Jews, and Hitler was the. I feel like murder is not strong enough of a word.
Genocide.
Yeah, but like
yeah, but I don't think there's a
like murderer of the Jews is what like
Slayer.
But worse than
obliterator.
That. There you go.
Yeah,
those work. Yeah. So the third seal. So we had a white horse, a red horse.
Death and war.
Now with the third seal, we have a black horse, and this rider on a black horse will spread famine throughout the earth. And whoever is left after the war will have to survive by bare means. Basically, no food, no water. Good fucking luck.
That's a very dystopian view of the future.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth seal, the third seal is shown in 6-5, if you want to look it up. The fourth seal is in 6-7 through 8. And it says that death will ride on a pale horse and kill 1/4 of the Earth's population. Some people had attributed the events of the second through fourth seals to the Great Wars, the famine and bubonic plague, which wiped out portions of Europe in the 14th century. The fifth seal is found in 6-9. And this one says, the martyred will ask God how long until he judges the earth. They're told just a little while longer and given a white robe. So everyone left will be standing there in white robes waiting for God to judge them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sixth seal, which is found in 6-12 through 14. In this seal, catastrophic natural events take place from a rattling earthquake, the sun turning black, the moon turning blood red, and mountains and oceans disappearing. So basically the world just goes away. And then in the seventh seal, it's found in 8-1. Silence fills the heavens, reminiscent of the Sabbath day of rest God took on the seventh day after creation. A brief pause occurs before the following judgments. So this is what the community believed in, and they felt that all of these seals were happening and they were opening, and it was going to be the end of days soon. And honestly, throughout the attack, if this is what they believed in, this is what they were going through.
In Western,
100%.
Like Western traditions, right? Like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, those kind of traditions.
Right.
Not a critique, but there's a very finalistic moment in human history and the earth, which is weird because this is something that only can happen in Western cultures. So that's where we're getting these kind of cults. Because in Eastern cultures, the world is cyclical. So you're going to have these highs and these lows. Things are going to be destroyed to be created. So when you're seeing these signs of destruction, you know that a rebirth is coming. But when you're looking at it through a Western lens, it's very definitive. It's fatalistic. It stops. Everything stops. I guess that's why I have a hard time with Western traditions myself, because I see cycles, not definitive ends.
Right. So, no, because
that's very scary.
Yeah. And even in our history, we haven't seen a definitive end. There's always been cycles. There's always been ups and downs in the world, no matter what. Nothing has ended. So for me, it's hard to see, for me to believe this and be like, oh, well, one day everything's just going to end and then someone's going to come back and judge us all. Like, well, no.
Science will back you up, right? The universe goes in cycles too. They're scientifically documenting these destructions for birth of stars and stuff. And the universe was a bang, and now it's expanding out even farther, and it's still going. Now, our world will end at one point because the sun will encompass the earth, but that doesn't mean life isn't sustained somewhere else in the universe. So even the science it's going to back you up on that one. I love me some science, even though I suck at the science.
It's okay. I love science.
Yeah. STEM ladies.
Yeah,
we need to do more STEM projects. STEM.
Science. Okay. So that's what they believed in. This is what David Koresh is teaching them. Now we're going to get into why the police got involved, why the government got involved, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the local police got involved with the Davidians because most of David's wives were young teenagers. And when young teenagers keep getting pregnant by the same person, or if they keep getting pregnant and refusing to say who the father is, and they're all coming from the same community, what are the police going to wonder? Who the fuck is this? And is it that old guy living in there? Like, that's fucked up.
Well, especially if you're walking into a community and saying, like, all right, who's getting busy? And all the men are like, we're not allowed to get busy. Only one man is allowed to get busy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, this caused the community to be accused of child abuse. Even though it's been said that David would, he would spank his children, but I don't think it was, the way it was worded wasn't a brutal beating. It was if you're a young child and you're doing something wrong, exactly, like a quick spank on the butt. That's it. I know.
Well, no, like, I'm 33 years old, and if I still hear a belt snap, my butthole puckers.
Oh, 100%.
The fear is real.
Yes, 100%. Like, my mom just has to give me that look at 25, and I know I'm done. I'm just like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I wasn't abused in that way when I was a kid. It was just standard discipline. You act up, you go
exactly.
You know, it wasn't
exactly
excessive. You know,
no.
But how did somebody from the community notice this, though? Because if they're isolated, how are they seeing these young girls with baby bump? Oh, great.
Oh, well, they have to go to the hospital and stuff for, like, doctor's appointments, or if something goes
on.
That's
kind of what I figured.
That. So we also get
like
into more of it.
These were teenagers that were, like, going in pregnant, like under 18.
Yes.
Well, then that's where the abuse comes in, like, not
right,
physical
but there were
abuse.
There were more like claims and everything going forward. I get into it.
Okay.
So he was known in the community to be very kind and gentle with his young children and any of the young children that were in there. He only felt, it's been said by ex-members, that he only felt an adult should ever be hit in the face, and, like, children only ever deserved, they only got whipped on the butt.
Well, it's fleshy. It can absorb impact. That's what
exactly.
A behind is designed to do.
So the child abuse claims came from an ex-member who was fighting for custody of his daughter after the mother of the child refused to leave with the father. So the father left the community and said, I want to take you and my daughter with me. She said, no, we're staying. You can leave. So then he left and tried to get custody of the child. And in order to get custody of the child, he made the child abuse claims. So this, along with Koresh launching a retail gun business, so they would buy guns legally, and then they would go to gun shows, they would go to ranges, they would go wherever, and they would sell these guns. So this becomes an issue later because the government felt that they were like changing the guns and turning them from, like, a manual semi-automatic.
Modifying them.
Changing, same thing. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Doesn't sound like it. The tone is so crass.
I know, I'm sorry. Because did you see my face trying to think of the word and I couldn't think of it?
Well, like, I was pretty certain you meant modifying, but then I was like, I need an example because there's a lot of different things that you can do to guns, and I don't want to assume she just means upgrading the things.
Basically upgrading the thing. So, anyway, this got the ATF involved. The ATF is the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms Agency, and the federal government interested in him as well. was the illegal
Was the
barricade.
NRA around at this time?
I don't know. It was in the 90s.
Yes.
Oh.
Sure. So the investigators worried that the Davidians would attack their neighbors or the town in the process of fulfilling an end time scenario. Even though that's not even close to what was going on, because their neighbors and the town said that they never had any issues with David Koresh or any of the Davidians.
Well,
They
still,
just basically sat there alone.
I feel like this was a holy crap. We have this small town of people with these I can't think of the word, like extreme religious beliefs, and now they all have guns. We need to come up with a way to put an end to this.
So they were just fishing, basically.
Well, when any culture builds an armory and amasses firearms in huge quantities, that causes alarm. Like,
right.
What are you going to do with all those guns? It looks like you're about to ready to do some sort of guerrilla campaign bullshit.
So the ATF sent in undercover agents to watch the compound and see if there was any illegal activity going on. In early 1993, so it was going on in 1993, so probably NRA. The agents in Texas requested a search warrant for Mount Carmel. But being the dumb fucks that they were, and they were dumb fucks, the agents decided that a sneak attack would be a better way to serve the warrant than just going up to knock on the door of the compound.
Why?
Like, they came in with trucks and guns, and they were just like, we're going to serve this warrant. Hi. Like, just, hi, we need to serve this warrant. Okay, come on in, guys. What the fuck, guys? Why?
Excessive use of force is coming to mind.
100% this entire time. So they were planning for a forced entry because they didn't think that Koresh would allow them inside.
Well, I was going to say, that was kind of my thought on it. Like, rather than worry about dealing with doing it nice and having him be like, no, you're not coming in here, and giving them whatever reason, they probably just figured, you know what? We're just going to skip that step, and we're going to full force this bitch.
Well, they think they had the illusion of surprise?
Oh, they definitely did.
I just think it was a forced power play.
Yes.
So it was just to show them, you might have your little armory started, but we are still bigger and tougher than you are.
Yes. But they actually did think that they had the power of surprise. But they didn't.
So it's both. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because one of the, not colonists, the cult people, whatever you want to call them, the Davidians, high logic brain work things. So anyway, one of the Davidians worked with the U.S. Post Office, and on his way home, someone had stopped and asked him from like the local news or some camera crew was like, hey, do you know the way to Mount Carmel? And he goes, yeah, it's that way. Why? What's up? They were like, oh, the ATF's going to serve a warrant. So then he took a faster way home and warned them. So David Koresh knew what the fuck was coming. Like, you're dumb fucks. Anyway, don't let the local news know what you're doing. Don't be dumb. So, the warrant was for illegal possessions of firearms and explosives. When the agents attempted to penetrate the complex, gunfire erupted, and this started the extensive battle. The battle left 4 ATF agents dead and 15 wounded.
Who fired first?
That's the controversy.
Ooh.
Because the ATF claims that the Davidians fire first. The Davidians claimed that the ATF fired first. And because the compound burned down in the final struggle, there's no evidence to show if the bullets went in or out first. Even though when the Davidians' lawyer came in they said that the bullets came in first. You could tell by the wooden door.
There's a quote from the Revolutionary War that my aunt used to quiz me on because she used to think you should know famous quotes and how to finish them. And this was at the Revolutionary War, so they're standing off and they're trying to decide. They don't want to instigate the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they say to the troops, I'm going to pause and see if you know what it is. Don't shoot until you see
The flames?
the whites of their eyes.
Oh.
That way there's
Oh,
no...
you know what? I should have known that because I've heard that before, but I wasn't paying attention because I keep hearing music coming through the headphones.
Do you have something
From
open in your
where?
back browser or like Facebook
No, like it
minimized?
sounds like somebody's phone's going off or somebody's playing an organ.
Weird.
I
Yeah.
don't have an organ. So, like, hi, Sound Maiden, if
Haunted
you catch
bitch.
that, it's not me this time. It's Justine.
You don't know that. You could still have an EVP on this mic this turn.
And I'm the only one that can hear it.
Fuck up.
Actually, that was the best EVP gotten by the original Ghost Hunter series, was this organ in this old tavern thing.
Okay, you were both at my house today. I don't have a piano.
I don't either. If anything, it's going to be the hip-hop music from the community across the street from me, like the people. Like, it would not be organ music that you hear. I'm like weirdly creeped out now because of Ghost Hunters. And I know we've gotten EVPs on this show before. They're on our Patreon, by the way.
It's fine. I just moved into a new apartment. If this one is haunted too, I'm just going to burn everything to the ground.
No, I'm going to come over and play my new Ouija board with you when it comes in.
True life.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the story.
Oh, look at her being on task.
Listen, I really like this one. So the battle left 4 ATF agents dead and 15 wounded. 6 of the Branch Davidians died, and a lot more were wounded or injured, but no one really knows how many because they didn't get any help. They didn't get any medical care, they didn't get any medical treatment, and they weren't allowed to bury their dead.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So David was injured in this fight as well. There's like controversies on how badly injured. So in the Netflix documentary, it was in his complete side, and in my own personal opinion, if you were shot in the side as badly as they showed, you would not last 51 days. And that's how long this motherfucker lasted. Because that's when this ended. It was a 51 fucking day standoff.
What if they missed vital organs, though? It is possible to receive a serious gunshot wound and avoid major arteries and organs.
With no medical treatment.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
For
as long
51
as
days.
as long as you had someone there that had enough knowledge,
basic
like
first aid.
If it was like a clean through and through, and it didn't hit any vital organs or anything, all you have to do is stop that bleeding, and you could last for 51 days.
What they should have used,
especially if he has food and water at hand.
Oh, he doesn't. So anyway, my issue with the Netflix was that it made it look so bad. Like the way this wound looked, and I know it was for dramatics.
Yeah.
But people are taking that on face value.
I mean, if you really want to knock somebody out, you want to use a certain caliber gun or even a buckshot, like bullet, to take somebody out. But if they were dumb and they only wanted to show a display of power and use smaller caliber bullets or something that was more precise, you're going to get that clean wound that Dex was talking about.
Probably. But I still hated that. So, after 45 minutes of the shooting, the ATF stopped and withdrew. At this point, a ceasefire was negotiated over the phone. The operation had over 100 agents and was one of the largest mounted by the Bureau, and was the most fatal at this time. So then, because the ATF fucked up, their big brother, the FBI, showed up. I don't like the FBI. they kind of seem like assholes. So, the FBI took over after the ATF failed. The standoff stretched over 7 weeks. The negotiations were unsuccessful because the Davidians had enough food and water and like other necessities, so they ran out of water because the ATF shot up their water like holders.
The water tower?
They didn't have a water tower. Maybe it was more
Water
like a water barrel.
barrels.
Yeah, but they were like gallons upon gallons upon gallons.
Yeah,
they were
you
huge.
can buy them that big.
I would never live in the wilderness. Anyway.
Oh,
So,
my husband, when we buy a house, my husband plans on buying a couple just to have water reserves just in case.
You guys are smart people. I don't drink water. So, anyway, they had enough food and other necessities stockpiled to last them years. So, that means that they had like MREs and like canned goods. They had refrigerated foods for a little bit, but that goes away. So, on April 18th, the day before the standoff ends, the U.S. Attorney General at the time, Janet Reno, approved the tear gas assaults. Now, this is my biggest problem with this whole thing and with everything going on in the world today. Because let's just take a second. What's going on in the U.S. that they're using tear gas for right now?
The protests.
Yeah. Guess what is considered a chemical weapon and was banned by the Geneva Convention?
Tear gas.
Tear gas. They banned it in war, but they said, you know what? You're allowed it for riot control by agents of law enforcement. Tell me why. If China attacked us today, we would not be allowed to tear gas them. But we can tear gas our own fucking citizens because we don't agree with them. Not okay. Not okay.
I mean, you're raising a very valid point, especially if it is deemed chemical warfare and frowned upon.
It's frowned upon in times of war, but they left it alone for countries to say, okay, well, our riots are out of control. So they used this in the race riots right before Waco in LA during this time in the early 90s. And during that, it basically was proven to be extremely flammable.
Oh,
So
no.
going into all of this, the government knew that tear gas that they were going to use on these people was extremely flammable. And to this day, they're using extremely flammable tear gas on our people. Not cool, dude. Not fucking cool. Anyway, off
I
my
got
little
my
rant.
point. I needed to get on my soapbox.
Off my little rant. Fuck that shit. So their logic behind this is that if they use the tear gas, they wouldn't have to use more lethal weapons. So if I
You
use
can
tear
survive.
gas, yes. Yeah, sure, whatever. You can survive. You're going to be scarred. It can leave chemical burns. It can cause blindness. You could die if exposed to it for too long. So on April 19th at 6 a.m., the Davidians were informed of the imminent attack and asked to surrender. The Davidians said, fuck you. And after a few minutes, 2 FBI combat vehicles began inserting tear gas into the building. They also had Bradley tanks that fired tear gas, like canisters, into the building. But the Davidians were prepared for that shit. They had gas masks. Now, you can't fit a gas mask to fit a child. And if you don't have the proper gas mask fitting, it's not going to fit a smaller woman's face. So, this was fine for the men. but all those children.
Do you know
were getting gassed.
approximately how many children were?
Oh yeah, I get into that.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch. I have a whole timeline and victims and everything. So, by 11:40 in the morning, so this started at 6 a.m. And by 11:40, the last of almost 100 tear gas canisters were fired into that compound.
Jesus.
Yeah. Bit of an overkill? Sure, we'll go with that. After 12, a fire erupted at 3 places around the compound. 9 Davidians fled. Koresh and 80 of his followers died in this second assault. 22 of those victims were children. So 22 children died.
Ages what to what?
I don't know.
Wait, where was my warning?
I'm sorry. Fuck,
oh my God, why can't you give me a trigger warning? And you warned me hours ago, but you didn't tell me right before on the podcast. Brandy, we need to work on your trigger warnings.
Guys, I'm really bad.
Right after you like said how many children died, I sat there and I was like, oh hey, that's that thing she mentioned earlier. I was like, hey, she said she was going to talk about this.
Oh my God, 22 children. That sounds like the pit of toddlers and Mangala in my brain. Yeah. Oh.
So, listen.
Oh my God.
80 people died. And out of those 80, 22 were kids. That's a fucking lot. You're telling me that tear gas was needed for that? For 60 adults? You needed 100 canisters of tear gas? A little bit of an overkill.
Oh, wait, hold on. How many people lived in like this commune?
Oh, a lot. A lot left. I have a whole timeline of when they leave, but a lot of them left in this 51 days or before. 9 people escaped. 80 died. Technically 81 if we're counting Koresh. So 81 people died. 9 people left. The FBI and the Justice Departments maintained to this day that the Davidians started the fire. They claim to have eyewitness accounts and forensic data that proves this. Now, I want to know who was an eyewitness inside the compound that would say, oh yeah, we started that. I don't believe it. I'll give you that there was forensic data, whatever, like heat, like thermal cameras or whatever. But I don't give you eyewitness accounts.
I could totally believe that because the guy I talked about earlier that did the YouTube video that had been in a cult, he gets into how a lot of cult leaders will very specifically do things and have like these little tricks to kind of almost like brainwash you.
Oh yeah,
and
100%.
You have to be. So it could make sense if somebody who is a person who had been brainwashed later after escaping from this and breaking away from some of that brainwashing was like, yeah, oh yeah, we set the fire.
Yeah, whistleblowers are a thing.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Like, all of these people were basically up for murder charges. So could it have been, oh, we're going to charge you with murder of those 4 ATF agents, even if you didn't have a gun. You're charged with murder because you were in that compound.
Guilty by association.
Right, but if you tell me that you started that fire, I'll just drop that charge.
That could be true.
So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just have a hard time believing it because...
You're saying there's an interrogation tactic that's skewing the truth to get what they want.
Right, is what maybe that's just me being a conspiracy theorist.
No, I've seen this in police cases before where they will interrogate somebody and be like, no, that's not what happened. Why don't you try again so you can avoid being in trouble? You know, they
Mm-hmm.
will keep going until they get the version of truth that suits their needs.
Right,
And out of
exactly.
fear, a person will falsely confess.
Right,
Or to try and get like a lesser charge.
Mm-hmm.
right. And I think that's just something that could have happened.
Yeah.
It's in the realm of possibility.
Exactly. So now we're going to do the timeline.
Okay.
So this is the timeline of the 51-day siege, attack, hostage situation, whatever the fuck you want to call it. On
Bullshit.
February, yeah, bullshit, basically.
Like I didn't know a lot about Waco. I just knew it involved some people in the desert and a standoff with police. Like it was a cult standoff. I don't know. But this all just seemed like one giant dumb fuckery shit show that could have 4 different ways been avoided. Like it was all unnecessary.
So
hindsight's 2020, ladies.
Exactly. So on February 28th, the ATF attacks the Davidians. We already covered that. On March 1st, the ATF surrendered the command to the FBI. The FBI began negotiations right away, and they get 10 kids released. Now, any of the kids that get released are not David Koresh's children. The 22 that died in the fire are all David Koresh's children. He would not let any of his biological children leave that compound.
Not to save them.
Mm-hmm. Because he thought that they were the holiest ones and they needed to be saved. And he thought staying in the compound would save them.
God would save them from the ATF fire and
Well,
guns?
he didn't know about the fire, but he thought that he could protect them with God on his side.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then
did David Koresh actually believe all this stuff? Like legit, he wasn't like playing a role?
I mean, if he was playing a role, he was really fucking good at it.
Ego can get in the way.
Didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, he was full blown crazy. Okay. So, Koresh.
Well, then it would kind of make sense that like if he, there's a reason I asked, because if he's just one of those cult leaders that are just doing it for the power and to get something out of people or get people to do his bidding, then I lost my train of thought.
Have you ladies ever seen the Blues Brothers?
Yes.
No.
In the Blues Brothers, okay, they do some crazy ass shit. I'm not gonna ruin the plot of the movie for you. But the entire time that they're getting into these shenanigans accidentally, because they believe they're on a divine quest from God to do the thing. And when you place that quest or your mission or your ego into this higher power's plan that you're interpreting, common sense and logical self-preserving fear goes out the window. So that might be that kind of crazy that he was.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at, because I remember now. So if he legitimately believed all these religious beliefs, then it makes sense he would want to stay in the compound and think that this is part of the end times and he has to try and protect his children. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So on March 2nd, Koresh promised the FBI that he would surrender if they would televise a video message that he recorded. The FBI agreed, and it was broadcast on the Christian Broadcasting Network, which, like, I don't even know what that is, but okay.
Do you have a transcript?
No.
Oh.
I'm sure we could find the video on YouTube, though.
I want to hear what his final message was.
Oh, this isn't his final message.
Oh. He had several? Okay.
Oh, yes. So, I'm sure I can find it, and I will find it and put it up for you. But obviously, after they broadcast this message, he went back on his word. duh, and claimed that God was telling him not to give up yet. So then on March 7th, Koresh tells the FBI that all of the kids that are left inside the compound are his biological children and are not going to come out. So that's the 22 children. On March 9th, the FBI cut the electricity for the first time. They would eventually turn it back on after more promises from Koresh. So with them cutting the electricity, this caused the compound to lose all of the milk, all of the stuff in their fridge and freezer. So this depleted a lot of their supplies. So then on the 12th of March, the FBI decided to cut off the electricity permanently because they were trying to pressure the Davidians out. This is where the FBI showed their true colors and began psychological warfare, because they would shine like football stadium lights into the compound at all times, and use loud, quote, music to make them crack. The music was loud noises that were sounds of animals being killed or children crying or people being tortured. Sometimes it was just people laughing around the clock to try to fuck with the compound and get them to come outside.
They're treating them like terrorists.
Exactly. And this was 12 days in. This goes on for 51 days. So on March 19th, the FBI negotiators managed to convince Koresh to let 8 women and 2 men leave. So that's 10 more people that left. So right now we're up to 20 people that left. They continued the psychological warfare. On April 5th, Koresh promises to give up after observing Passover, and the FBI gives them an 8-day grace period, saying, okay, you can observe Passover, and then after that, you're coming out. On April 12th, the FBI finally figures out that Koresh will go against any and all deals that he makes with them. Took them this fucking long.
I was gonna say,
like this fucking long. Good job, guys. So this is also when they decide to write to Janet Reno for permission to use tear gas. At first, she denied them because she thought, no, that's fucking wrong. There's women and children in there. Why are we tear gassing them? But after talking to the president, anyone know who the president was then?
What year was it?
93.
Google.
I was hoping one of you two would know.
I don't follow presidents.
Fucking garbage.
I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'm like bouncing between two.
Who are you bouncing between?
Either George Bush Sr. or Clinton.
That's exactly who's listed for 1993.
Both
It
of them?
seems like on
Well,
presidents
does
of
it
the United
surprise
States.
us at all?
Huh?
Does it surprise us at all that the president talked her into letting them use it?
Yeah, because Bill Clinton, it was a transitional year. So it depends on
Okay.
what month you're on.
April.
March. April.
So it would have been senior then. Because
Great.
the elections are in
Dumbass.
November.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, dumbass. So, on April 18th, the FBI prepared to enter the compound and make the arrest of David Koresh by force. They get the tear gas plan approved by the president, and on April 19th was the last day of the assault. The FBI decides to storm the complex. They inform David Koresh through the loudspeaker that they were using as psychological warfare. They stopped it to say, hey, David, come out. You're under arrest. And then afterwards, they start injecting the tear gas into the building. The FBI injected the bunker. So the bunker is really a school bus that the Davidians had buried in the ground. They used it. It was their idea of like a bomb shelter. Okay. So they also had a big walk-in cooler, which I picture like the one in bakery or the one in meat.
Mm-hmm.
that obviously wasn't cold anymore because it had no electric. So the women...
Oh, that thing probably smelled really bad.
Oh, 100%. But the women and children, most of them were in that cooler with wet rags up against the seams in the door so that no tear gas could come in. Some of the women were in this school bus that was buried underground. The FBI injected the bunkers where the women and children were. Steph, I'm sorry. Trigger warning. Hi. For almost 2 hours straight.
The hell?
Don't you need just one? Why the fuck do you need to do that for 2 hours?
So these women and children were inhaling tear gas for 2
The
hours.
Fuck.
They had to know that would have killed them. They
knew.
had to have known.
They knew. They did not care. And you cannot tell me that they did not know.
That was not in their fucking phone call when they asked for permission. Hey, we're going to do this for 2 hours straight and kill these fuckers.
No, because that was Janet's biggest thing, Janet Reno. She was like, but there's children in there, right? That'll hurt the kids. And they were like, no, it's not going to hurt the kids. We're going to get the kids out. They lied. They knew the children were in there. They knew it would hurt the children. And they knew that was their plan.
Did they take badges for this? They better have taken badges for this. I would have. Oof.
No. The FBI was found not in the wrong at all.
By who?
The fucking government. They did trials.
Fuck me.
And literally all because this little religious commune in Texas did nothing.
Just go
You wanna know
arrest
the
that
best part?
fucker
Like,
for being a
it's not-
pedophile and call it a day.
You
What's
wanna know
all
the
this
best part?
shit?
It's literally not even like, oh, they specifically started an armory to take over the government or terrorize a small town. They literally did fuck all, and because the ATF had to try and have the bigger dick.
So none of the guns were at the compound that the ATF thought were there.
No.
Because the day
No.
before
22 children died and the guns weren't even fucking there?
Listen.
Oh.
They had guns, but not the ones that were modified, like the ATF said. Because they had taken any guns that they had accumulated legally to a gun show to sell days before the ATF was even there, or the day before.
Where was their intel?
Their intel was there, and their intel told them that there was nothing going on, but the ATF said, you know what, fuck that. Because the ATF had just fucked up maybe like 3-4 months before really bad, and they were trying to use Waco to come back and be like, look, we're not fuck-ups, we're not garbage. And look what happened.
No,
you're worse fuck-ups than we thought.
Yeah.
So the kids' faces were too small for the gas masks to fit. So the women put sopping wet rags on their face to try to block the tear gas. They put rags in the cracks of the doors. They took the gas masks they had and they tightened them as close to the kids' faces as they could, but the children suffered the burning of the gas. So at some point, a fire broke out in the compound, and basically the tear gas was all in there. A fire breaks out because they had taken away their electric and their gas for heating. So they had kerosene heaters that was heating their compound. So you're injecting a flammable gas into a compound that is using kerosene heaters. What do you expect to happen? A fire's going to break out. It's going to happen. So after the fire broke out, the FBI found that they were not responsible for starting the fires, even though it was proven that the tear gas was highly flammable, and they were forced to use kerosene heaters. So now we're going to go into the victims and their ages, okay? Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
All of the kids are at the end, so you have a little bit. Okay.
I should have been drinking, is what I should have been doing. I got water in my cup today.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So the first victim was David Koresh, and he was only 33 years old. Mary Jean Borst was 49. Pablo Cohen was 38. Yvette, why does he keep doing that? Go away. Yvette Fagan was 34. Lisa Gent was 26. Peter Gent was 24. Diana Henry, 28. Paulina Henry, 24. Philip Henry, 22. Stephen Henry, 26. And then Zilla Henry was 55. Rachel Howe was 23. Sherry Lynn Howe was 23. David Michael Jones was 30. Perry Jones was an unknown age, but he was older because he was Rachel Howe and Sherry Howe's father. Nicole Elizabeth Little was 24. Jeffrey Little was 32. Douglas Wayne Martin was 42. Juliet Santoyo Martinez was 30. Jillian Matthews was unknown. Allison Bernadette Monbelly was 31. Rosemary Morrison was 29. Teresa Norberga was 48. Judy Snyder was 41. Steve Snyder was 48. Michael Schroeder was 29. Lorraine B. Silva was 40. Floricita Shobi was 34. Scott Kahiro Shobi was 35. Stanley Silva was an unknown. Doris Vega was unknown. Margarita Joanne Vega was 47. Neil Vega was 37. Jaden Carnwell Wendell was unknown. And then Mark H. Wendell was unknown. Now we're going into the children. Okay, so Dayland Gent was 3. Vanessa Henry was 19. Cyrus Howe was 8. Star Howell was 6. Michelle Jones was 18. Serenity C. Jones was 4. Bobby Lane Koresh was 16 months old. Lisa Martin was 13. Sheila Martin was 15. Abigail Martinez was 11. Audrey Martinez was 13. Crystal Martinez was 3. Isaiah Martinez was 4. Joseph Martinez was 8. Melissa Morrison was 6. Mayana Schneider was 2. Aisha Summers was 17. Startle Summer was 1. Hollywood Silva was unknown. Rachel Silva was 13. The survivors were Renos Avram, who was 29. Jamie Castillo was 24. Graham Leonard Craddock was 31. Clive Joseph Doyle was 52. Misty Ferguson was 17. Derek Lloyd was 37. Ruth Ellen Ottman was 29. David Thibodeau was 24. And Marjorie Thomas was 30. So I have some 911 calls from the first attack.
You know, I'm struggling because Yins were playing with my 3-year-old today.
I know.
You guys are playing with Evie.
Mm-hmm.
Chasing her around. We were on a playground and all that shit. And she's 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And
all of these children.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to throw up because all I can think of is her inhaling burning tear gas.
I know.
Ugh.
It's awful. This is why I have such a problem with, it's 2020. We're still using tear gas. We didn't learn our lesson. It's almost like these 22 children died in vain. We learned nothing. We need to start learning from our actions.
I think you know now a lot what I was experiencing when we were talking about So Well, or when I was sitting here with Mangala. And it sounds like you've done hours of research. So you're living these people's stories. And I can hear that in your voice as you're talking about it. It's hitting you in a very profound way.
And this is why, with all the protests going on, I was going off. You don't fucking tear gas people. You don't do it. If it's not okay in war, it's not okay at any time. They banned it for a fucking reason. Our government killed 22 children and got away with it. And now we're tear gassing all of these protesters. For what? What is it doing? What good is that doing?
My brain wouldn't immediately go to what are other countries doing to control populations if they're not using tear gas. What could we learn from another country?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but there's got to be another way.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a cause here to be had, and if there's a way that we can support this, I want to do it.
Right, like we need to figure out a way, because I mean, I don't think that tear gassing or even like rubber bullets, I don't think that's a solution.
One lady lost her eye with a rubber bullet.
Like, it's not less deadly. Like, yeah, you might not die, but you could get chemical burns on your skin. If you inhale it and you have asthma, you could die. You could die.
Well, with everything that is going on right now, there are starting to be a lot more talks, a lot more laws being passed to change a lot of these types of things. Right. And ban a lot of these things. So that is something that could come out of all this.
But she raised a good point. We learned this lesson, in the fucking 90s? It is
93.
Now over 2 decades
I know
later.
That. We never learn our lesson.
Clearly. So, you want to listen to the 911 calls? And by listen, I mean me read them to you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, this is the call between 911 and David Koresh. So, it starts, 911. Koresh. Hello? Yes. This is David Koresh. This is who, sir? Shut the fuck up, Justine. Do you want me to send it to Steph and she can just read his part?
Oh my god. You can't do a deep man voice and it's so funny and cute. What did you write?
Fine. Fuck you. Okay, so anyway, this is David Koresh. This is who, sir? David Koresh, Mount Carmel Center. We're being shot up out here. Okay, where are you? Where am I? I'm at Mount Carmel Center. Okay, hang on just a second. All right. This is Lynch. Hey, Lynch. Yeah. This is David Koresh. Okay, David. And then it kind of like trails off and then it comes back. And it starts with Koresh going, the Notorious? What'd you go and do that for? You brought a bunch of guys out here? And then after a while, David begins to preach the Bible. Koresh starts with, there are 7 seals. Lynch goes, all right, David. And just kind of gives up on him because during your 911 call, you're preaching the motherfucking Bible. Calm your goddamn shit, David. You're being shot at.
I mean, it might not be the best way to try and get help.
No?
You're opening the seals. Stop your shit.
Right? Like, anyway. So then Wayne Martin's also calling 911 at the same time. So this 911 goes, 911, what's your emergency? There's 75 men around our building, and they're shooting at us at Mount Carmel. Tell them there are women and children in here to call it off. At some point, the operators got Lynch on the phone, who I'm assuming is like a deputy or a sheriff or some guy. And Lynch goes, I hear gunfire. Oh shit, hello? Wayne says, call it off. They're attacking us again. 911. Wayne, listen to me. Cease fire and they will cease fire. They want to remove their casualties, okay? So you got 9 people, you got 3 people down and 1 you sure is dead? Are you injured, Wayne? I'm under fire. Okay, I know you're under fire, but are you hurt? This would be me. Not yet.
Oh my god, that is the best response.
Like literally the most me response ever. So then 911 goes,
that's me too.
Wayne, cease firing. Wayne goes, I have a right to defend myself.
He's not
And
wrong.
That's the end of that call.
Like
You're not wrong.
that's literally what seems to happen, is that what happened is the ATF came in, they had all these legal guns they purchased, and they defended themselves.
Exactly. So last section, shady fucking shit. And I actually titled it Shady Shit. So proud of me. 3 cameras were recording the entire ATF attack, but after the attack, the tapes went missing.
Of course they did.
No one found
missing,
those.
You mean probably burned.
Yeah, basically. And then the on-scene activity logs from that attack had pages ripped out of it.
Convenient.
Steph, I'm sorry. Justine, I'm sorry. There's another trigger warning that I forgot about until I just read it. Hi.
At least, hey, it's preemptive. I appreciate it.
I'm getting better. They killed the Davidians' dogs as well.
What?
Not the fucking dogs! What the fuck?
I'm sorry. Their original plan was to kill the dogs if the dogs attacked them. But in the end...
The dogs are going to get in the way!
Yeah, so
that's just the nature of the dog.
Yeah, so they decided to just kill all the dogs first. And some of the surviving Davidians said that this is what sparked the retaliation from the Davidians. Was you just killed our dogs for no reason.
Proud of them.
Where's fucking PETA for that shit?
I mean...
They're always in inappropriate places. This would have been a good time, PETA. What the fuck?
PETA, what the fuck? Okay, we're going on. Don't worry.
The fuck?
Beautiful. I'm actually incredibly proud now of the people in Waco for defending themselves and their dogs that were heinously murdered.
Dogs are some of the most.
That would have been me.
They're some of the most pure souls. They're equivalent to children.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the ATF agents, and I couldn't find the name because I'm sure he does not want to be quoted for this, but I'm gonna.
We need to fucking find the name and burn the effigy.
So, one of the agents was quoted saying, "We are a law enforcement agency. We don't just fire through the walls indiscriminately." That's what you did. You do. That's exactly what you did, you dumb bucks. You just fired straight through those walls. Like, what? Okay, so one of the men who was shot outside the compound was Michael Schroeder. He was shot outside the compound for not complying with ATF orders. His body was left in a ravine where he fell for 5 days.
The fuck?
5 fucking days. Yeah. The ravine was only about 300 yards away from the compound, and 11 agents fired at him after claiming that he raised a pistol and would not comply. 11 against 1. What? I think I broke Steph.
Yep, she's broke.
I'm sorry. I told you Waco was a whole thing.
No, I just watched a documentary about a man that had come from a different African country to the United States, and he was trapped in a doorway, and he had come out of his house, and I can't remember why they were questioning him, but he was basically a street peddler is what they labeled him. And he went to go reach for his wallet. Somebody shouted he had a gun, and he had several officers for unload their entire clips into him when
Yep.
he was just reaching for his wallet.
Yep.
And the mother still gives talks on losing her son because he was very privileged in the country that he had came from, and he gave that all up to come to America and make his own name. And then he was shot at the hands of officers just for reaching in his back pocket to get his wallet. And they were found not at fault because they seemed remorseful in the trial, even though they didn't pause for half a second to see a square and not a fucking gun come out of this guy's pocket. And it just immediately, my mind went to this documentary, like immediately.
Like, it's fucked.
Like,
it's
even
not
like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is so somber.
I know.
This is so somber. I was expecting something a little bit lighter because it's Brandy, and it
I'm
is
sorry.
so. This is like, you guys, like, I'll do a podcast and you guys will go, that's not as fucked up as I thought it was going to be. This far exceeds my expectations of fucked up at this point. Just so you know. Just to frame me.
I've been listening to Waco books at work all month. All during quarantine.
Oh.
And like, this is what I'm falling asleep to at night. This is what I'm working to during the day. And everyone's like, you good? And I'm like, yeah, totally fine. Like, it's fucked. So they did an autopsy on Michael. The autopsy showed that there were at least 7 bullets left inside his body. So 7 that weren't through and throughs. His body was also found face down in the ravine. So if they left it like it fell, that to me says his back was to them. Right? And Steph
I don't
just
know,
left.
because
She just took her headphones off and left.
I don't think.
I know.
I don't think a body turns at all when it falls, so I'm going to go with, as long as it does not rotate mid-flight, then that's correct. That would mean his back was to them, and that was an execution.
Yeah.
But that doesn't surprise me about our government.
So, Steph, I'm sorry. There's more.
That's okay. I'm here. I did this to you with Mangla. It's fine.
A couple of the survivors reported hearing 2 additional shots after all the police started to walk away from Michael. There were 2 entry wounds right behind his right ear, 2 inches apart. So after 11 of them shot him, 2 more stayed.
And double tapped his shit.
Yeah.
No, okay. The idea is to disarm, not murder. You should be aiming for legs and arms just to incapacitate somebody, then collect them and take them to the hospital. It should not be an execution.
Yeah. Steph, you might want to just take your headphones out. I think this is my last thing, though.
Or, you know, try to talk them down, and then if they attempt to fire upon you, you know,
then
there's a difference between one cop who's wearing protective gear possibly getting hit and just being like, oh, he might shoot us, let's just obliterate him.
So the bunker where the women and children were, when the tanks busted through the walls, the debris barricaded the door. So they had no chance of escape. And for them to drive the tank through the wall, they had to have seen. Because they had heat sensing cameras. They could tell where people were. And that's where they aimed their tanks at.
This was, what was it that got barricaded?
The bunker where the women and children were. So the
that thing would have lit the fuck up.
Yep. So they had no chance. And this is why I don't trust our government.
I think what's hard in these cases is that these examples aren't indicative of everyone that serves or everyone that's a police officer or everybody that's an FBI agent. I think that what the problem is this perceived threat, the use of excessive force, and then a mob mentality to justify it. There's a lack of judgment and critical thinking skills that are happening in these situations.
Right.
You know, there's so many times where it's a double-edged sword, right? If you're in a dangerous situation, if you wait too long to act, like, why didn't you act sooner? Right. And then that was the other edge of the sword. So instead of erring on the side of caution and something terrible happening, they just initiated something terrible happening to prevent this perceived exaggerated threat to reconcile their earlier shortcomings.
Well, I'll go ahead, finish.
No, that was it.
But like, in conjunction with that, it's also the fact that in a situation like this, there were many levels that it went up, and there were many different chains of command making decisions here. And at any point in time, somebody else could have said, no, that's not acceptable. We need to do something different than that. Or we're not, come up with a better plan. At any point in time, that's all, just somebody saying that, and it might have been solved a different way.
Okay. My sister will fix this, I'm sure. But Boondocks, I am reminded of in this holy day the sad story of Kitty Genovese. All you may remember a long time ago, almost 30 years, this poor soul cried out for help time and time again, but no one answered their calls. Though many saw, no one so much as called the police. They all just watched as Kitty was being stabbed to death in bright daylight. They watched the assailant walk away. And now we must all fear evil men, but there is another kind of evil. One we must fear the most is the indifference of good men. You need one person. One in all of these situations to say, hold the fuck up. One. It's all it takes.
And a lot of people put the blame on Janet Reno. So,
but she was given poor information.
She was given poor information.
She was misled.
And she was newly elected into her role. So, when you're new and you're a woman in a place of power like that,
you got something to prove.
You have to prove yourself, especially in the 90s, even today.
You're being pressured by men to make this decision. Yeah, exactly. I understand.
So I don't
I understand how that would play a part.
I mean, I'm not saying she's blameless.
No.
I could never. Well, I don't even fully blame her. Like, I put it more on the FBI and ATF. Like, it was their shit show and fuck up.
But they used her as the scapegoat.
Yeah, like, all I'm saying, like, all I was gonna say is, like, I could not morally. Like, if I was in her position, I would have sooner said, no, we're still not doing this, gone against orders, and lost my position.
That's easy for you to say, though, because you're not in that position.
Right.
You'd be surprised, because a lot of people talk, oh, I would have done this, I would have done this. And then when they actually put these people in these situations, they're acting way differently than their morals have said that they're going to act. It's very hard to walk in somebody else's shoes and say, oh, I would have done this.
Right.
You don't know what you're going to do until you're in that position.
And like,
Fair enough.
as much as like they're all to blame, I feel that maybe the FBI took advantage of that with her feeling like she had something to prove and being a woman.
Absolutely.
And they knew it was going to end badly, and they wanted a scapegoat.
So for time's sake, forgive me.
Yeah.
I don't want to torture Sound Maiden, but
It's okay, I understand.
how do you want to wrap this up? What note do you want to leave this on? Because you've said some very powerful statements. You made some very intelligent observations. So what do you want to walk away from this one with? What do you want to leave everybody with?
I don't know. Yes, was David Koresh a bad person? 100%. He was a pedophile. He was a child molester, all of the above. But was killing and were the women in the wrong? Maybe. The women that came into the cult that were older, that knew better, and still let their children be sexually abused. Yes, they were in the wrong. But just killing those 22 innocent children make up for those crimes.
It's not worth the price that was paid.
Yeah.
All right, Dex, what phobia do you have for us for this?
Better be good.
Listen, I tried. This was actually a rough one to get one for without not knowing a lot about it, but I think I actually did pretty well. So this week we've got anthrophobia, fear of people or society.
That's a good one. Yeah. Good job. You didn't disappoint me.
Good. Okay. I think it's time for a non-offensive dare to hopefully lighten the mood.
I'm sorry I killed everyone. I know you weren't expecting this.
No, what's amazing about you, Brandy?
I'm just a lot more disappointed in our country than I was before.
I know.
The disappointment has grown.
So I'm going to warn you, there's a lot of people that I know that don't feel the same way we do right now.
I know.
Well, we're very sympathetic to the way that you've presented it.
Right.
And there's two sides to every coin. There's two sides to every story.
Right.
But you're entitled to your opinion.
You know,
and you've done your research.
I have.
I do not agree at all with a lot of the things that were like. I don't agree with the stuff David Koresh was doing. I do not at all agree with the pedophilia, anything like that. All I am saying is that with what was going on and what had to be dealt with, that was beyond overkill.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's all I'm saying on it. And the fact that our government allowed that to happen and was involved in that happening is very disappointing.
Yeah. Did you pick a number, or do you want us to pick a number?
You guys pick a number.
13.
We already picked that one, I think.
You did.
I don't remember.
Episode 6.
21.
All right. You did not pick that one. You did pick 22. You guys like to pick low numbers, just so you know.
All right. My random number generator just picked 7.
We did 7.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
You guys are bad at picking numbers.
53.
All right. We're going to stick with 21 because that was the first one that we had not done yet. Okay. Number 21 is to pay somebody a compliment.
Okay.
I would prefer it be something not like, I like your shoes. I think you need to honestly look at somebody in a new way and
Justine,
give them...
you're not as gross as you look.
What? Not a backhanded compliment. What the fuck?
I was going to say, do you honestly think she's not going to do something like that?
Brandy, the queen of the backhanded compliment.
It took me a hot minute to think of something, and that wasn't even very good.
Oh, jeez.
Speaking of I don't know why it made me think of it, but when you said backhanded compliment, did I ever tell you guys about the time I was up in Jamestown, New York, and we were driving and we went past a bait shop / porn store?
What does that have to do with a backhanded compliment?
I don't know, it just made me think of it.
It's just fucked up.
She thought backwoods, not back.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think that was it. Like you said backhand, which led to backwoods, and I was like, oh yeah, that weird bait shop.
Gotcha.
Oh my god.
Okay. So next week, we're hopefully looking at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And that one is going to be
So a totally different level of fucked up.
a different level of fucked up. I'm hoping to present it in a lighter way. I'm going to see if Steffi can get outside of her comfort a bit. We'll see. And it's going to be a 2-parter. Yeah, but we're going to try to release both episodes in the same week so you don't have to wait an entire week for part 2. We're going to try this. No promises.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm going to go drink some whiskey.
Follow us on TikTok.
Oh, yeah, we did fun TikToks. We did super fun TikToks. _macabre_academy on TikTok. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, she went _happy.
Yes.
It did, because otherwise it wanted to abbreviate it into like the MACD. And I was like, what the fuck is the MACD? I was like, we are not that.
Well, there was an instance where I almost did the _macabre academy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we got that.
Anyways.
Yeah. So we're good. This is done. Can we be done now? I'd like to be done.
Go get drunk. I'm sorry.
Go get drunk. I'm gonna go play Civilization.
I'm going to bed.
You look tired. It's bedtime. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Have a great week. Have a great night. Whatever it is, you do you. And bye now. Bye.
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 Needs to be done.